First contact with the void beasts. The Galactic Confederation War Council chamber fell silent as Admiral Zixthar activated the holographic projection. The massive serpentine creatures undulated across the display, their obsidian scales absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Each one stretched nearly 500 meters from head to tail, with pulsating organs along their flanks that distorted the very fabric of spacetime. The void beasts have destroyed another mining colony in the Cygnus sector, Admiral Zixthar announced, his 4 compound eyes blinking in sequence, a sign of extreme distress among the Vesperi. That's the 7th attack this cycle, 3,000 lives lost, and resources valued at 16 billion galactic credits. High Chancellor Elomar of the Dravidi Conclave leaned forward, her crystalline exoskeleton catching the dim light. Are our countermeasures proving effective? The Admiral's antennae drooped. Negative, Chancellor. Our weaponry barely penetrates their quantum-reinforced dermal layers, and they appear to be multiplying. Panicked murmurs spread through the chamber. Representatives from 17 advanced civilizations, species that had mastered faster-than-light travel, terraforming, and dimensional engineering, found themselves utterly powerless against what appeared to be simple animals. There is one development, the Admiral said hesitantly. Our long-range sensors detected an unidentified vessel approaching a cluster of void beasts in the Epsilon sector yesterday. The chamber fell silent once more. The vessel was destroyed, asked Chancellor Elomark. No, the Admiral's voice betrayed his confusion. The vessel approached to within communication range, and then remained there for hours. Our observers lost contact when the vessel entered a nebula, but it appeared completely intact. Impossible, declared General Krall of the Ursan Military Collective, his massive furred form rising from his reinforced seat. Nothing survives direct contact with the beasts. Identify this vessel immediately. The Admiral manipulated the controls, and a new image appeared, a sleek ship of unfamiliar design, bearing markings that many council members had never seen before. It appears to be of human origin, Admiral Zixthar said. The chamber erupted in conversation. Humans were newcomers to the galactic stage, barely 2 centuries into faster-than-light travel. Their application to join the Confederation remained under review, primarily due to their species' unusual history of internal conflicts and their disconcerting habit of attempting to domesticate predatory species on their homeworld. Humans, Chancellor Elomar whispered, always where they shouldn't be. Captain Eliza Chen of the Earth exploratory vessel Curiosity had never expected to make first contact with the infamous void beasts, but here they were, 12 massive spacefaring creatures surrounding her ship, their enormous bodies undulating in what almost appeared to be a synchronized dance. Status report, she ordered, maintaining a calm demeanor despite the unprecedented situation. Shields holding at 98%, Captain. Lieutenant Rodriguez reported from Tactical. The creatures don't appear to be attacking, just circling us. Dr. Maya Patel, the ship's exobiologist, stared at her readings in fascination. Captain, I'm detecting complex electromagnetic patterns emanating from the creatures. It could be a form of communication. Or they're preparing to crush us like they did those mining colonies, Security Chief Okonkwo muttered, his hand hovering near the weapons control. The bridge door slid open, and ship's counselor Takahashi entered with something furry in his arms. Sorry for the interruption, Captain, but Mochi was becoming extremely agitated in my quarters. Captain Chen raised an eyebrow at the small creature, a genetically modified therapy ferret that Takahashi had received special permission to bring aboard. This isn't the best time, Counselor. I understand, but before Takahashi could finish, the ferret leaped from his arms and scurried to the view screen, standing on its hind legs and chittering excitedly at the massive creatures beyond the hull. Dr. Patel's eyes widened as she observed her instruments. Captain, the electromagnetic patterns from the void beasts just changed. They're responding to Mochi. Chen stared in disbelief. They're responding to a ferret. Not exactly, Dr. Paddle said, her fingers flying over her console. But the bioelectric field Mochi generates, all Earth mammals produce them, seems to be resonating with their communication frequency. It's like they recognize it. The captain made a split-second decision. Dr. Patel, can we replicate and amplify Mochi's bioelectric signature? I believe so, Captain. Do it. Let's see if we can establish communication. Over the next several hours, the crew of the Curiosity worked to create a rudimentary translation matrix based on the bioelectric patterns shared between Earth mammals and the void beasts. What they discovered stunned them all. They're not predators, Dr. Patel announced, her voice filled with wonder. At least, not in the way we understood. They're terraformers. Captain Chen leaned forward. Explain. The mining colonies they destroyed were harvesting resources from planets that the beasts were in the process of transforming. The distortion fields they generate aren't weapons. They're tools for molecular reconstruction on a planetary scale. They're making these worlds habitable. Habitable for whom? Chief Okonkwo asked. Dr. Paddle smiled. For everyone. They're cosmic gardeners, Captain. They've been reshaping planets across this galaxy for millions of years. Those attacks were simply them protecting their work. As understanding dawned, Captain Chen made another decision. Open a channel to Confederation headquarters and prepare our shuttle. I think it's time we introduced ourselves properly to our new friends. High Chancellor Elomar could scarcely believe the transmission she was viewing. The human captain, a small, fragile-looking female, stood on the shuttle platform with one of the massive void beasts coiled behind her. The creature's enormous head, large enough to swallow the human whole, rested on the platform beside her. And the human was touching it, stroking the space between its sensory pits as if it were some kind of pet. Greetings, Chancellor, Captain Chen said formally. I understand there's been some misunderstanding regarding our friends here. With your permission, I'd like to bring a diplomatic delegation, including a representative of the species you call void beasts, to explain the situation. The Chancellor's crystalline form vibrated with shock. You wish to bring one of those creatures to Confederation space, to a diplomatic meeting. The human smiled. Yes, her name is Harmony. She's an elder of her kind, and quite eager to establish peaceful relations after centuries of unfortunate conflict. She's promised to behave impeccably. Behind the human, the massive creature made a sound that resembled a contented rumble, its body shifting in what almost appeared to be embarrassment. This is unprecedented, the Chancellor said weakly. That's our specialty, Captain Chen replied. We'll arrive at Confederation headquarters in 3 standard days. Chen out. As the transmission ended, Admiral Zixthar turned to the Chancellor. Shall I mobilize our defenses? Chancellor Elomar stared at the blank screen, still processing what she had witnessed. No, Admiral. I believe we need to prepare for diplomacy instead. Alert the full council. It seems the humans have made friends with the most dangerous creatures in known space. How is this possible? The Admiral whispered. The Chancellor's crystalline form shimmered in what passed for a sigh among her kind. They're humans, Admiral. From what I understand of their history, this is practically their defining characteristic. They befriend the unfriendable. The Diplomatic Summit, a grand assembly hall of the Galactic Confederation, had been specially modified for this unprecedented meeting. The ceiling had been raised an additional 20 meters, reinforced structural supports had been installed, and a massive platform had been constructed to accommodate the enormous visitor. Representatives from all 23 member species filled the tiered seating, an anxious murmur permeating the chamber as they awaited the human delegation. Security forces lined the walls, armed with weapons that everyone knew would be useless if the diplomatic representative decided to turn hostile. High Chancellor Elomar took her position at the central podium, flanked by the Confederation Security Council. I call this emergency session to order, she announced, her crystalline voice resonating through the hall. We gather today to address what has been termed the Void Beast Crisis and to receive a most unusual diplomatic delegation from Earth. At that moment, the massive doors at the end of the hall parted. Captain Eliza Chen entered first, followed by her senior officers and a team of Earth scientists. And behind them, moving with surprising grace for its enormous size, came Harmony. The Void Beast, or whatever the humans now called it, was even more impressive in person than in transmissions. Nearly 500 meters of its length remained outside the hall, but its head and forward section filled the specially prepared area. Its obsidian scales seemed to absorb the light around it, creating an unsettling visual effect as it moved. The pulsating organs along its flanks emitted a soft blue glow that fluctuated in a mesmerizing pattern. The hall fell into absolute silence. "High Chancellor, honored representatives," Captain Chen began, her voice steady. "Thank you for receiving us. I present to you Elder Harmony of the Cosmic Architects, whom you have known as the Void Beasts. She comes in peace and wishes to correct a grave misunderstanding that has persisted for too long." Chancellor Elomar's compound eyes fixed on the massive creature. "You claim to communicate with this being?" "We do." Dr. Paddle stepped forward with a device in her hands. "Through this bioelectric translator, the architects communicate primarily through electromagnetic field modulation, a language that happens to share fundamental patterns with the bioelectric fields generated by Earth mammals." As if to demonstrate, a small furry creature popped its head out from Dr. Patel's lab coat pocket. Several delegates gasped. "This is Mochi," Dr. Paddle explained, stroking the ferret's head. "He helped us establish first contact. The architects are particularly fond of him." As if responding to its name, the enormous void beast lowered its head toward the tiny ferret. The ferret chittered excitedly, showing no fear of the creature that could swallow it without notice. General Krall of the Urson Collective growled skeptically. "Are we to believe that these creatures, which have destroyed billions in infrastructure and killed thousands, are suddenly peaceful because they like your pets?" Captain Chen met his gaze steadily. "They were never aggressive, General. They were protecting their work. Work that, ironically, benefits all spacefaring species." Dr. Patil activated a holographic display showing planetary systems. The cosmic architects are terraformers. They've been reshaping planets throughout the galaxy for millions of years, creating habitable worlds with breathable atmospheres, stable climates, and balanced ecosystems. Those mining operations weren't just extracting resources, they were destroying carefully calibrated planetary systems that had been under development for centuries. The hall erupted in conversation as the implications became clear. Silence. Chancellor Elomar commanded. When order was restored, she addressed the humans. "You expect us to believe that these creatures have been creating habitable worlds. For what purpose?" Captain Chen nodded to her communications officer, who activated the translator device. A series of harmonious tones filled the chamber, somehow conveying meaning despite not being words in any known language. "Harmony says," Captain Chen translated, "that they create because that is their purpose. They are the gardeners of the galaxy, seeding life where it can flourish. They have done this since before any of our civilizations arose. Those worlds were not being prepared for them, but for us, for any species that might need them." The revelation stunned the assembly into silence. "We've analyzed the planets the architects have been working on," Dr. Patil continued. "Each one is being optimized for different environmental conditions, suitable for different species. They're creating a diverse portfolio of habitable worlds throughout the galaxy." "And the attacks?" Admiral Zixthar demanded. "Defense," Captain Chen replied simply. "Imagine spending centuries carefully terraforming a world, only to have someone show up and start ripping out crucial components. The mining operations were extracting materials that were essential to the environmental balance being established. The architects tried to communicate, but without understanding their electromagnetic language, those warnings were misinterpreted as aggression." Harmony made a series of undulating movements, accompanied by fluctuations in her electromagnetic field that the translator converted to audio. She apologizes for the lives lost, Captain Chen translated. They never intended harm. They assumed any spacefaring species would recognize planetary engineering when they saw it. Chancellor Elomar's crystalline form shimmered with conflicting emotions. If what you say is true, this changes everything we thought we knew about these creatures and about the future of expansion in our galaxy. Which is why we propose the formation of an interspecies cooperation initiative, Captain Chen said, a partnership between the Confederation, Earth, and the cosmic architects. We can provide the communication bridge between your civilizations and theirs. Together, we can coordinate expansion efforts that respect their terraforming work while addressing the resource and habitability needs of all species. General Krell snorted. And why would humans be necessary in this arrangement? Dr. Paddle gently lifted Mochi from her pocket. Because we understand them. Something in our evolutionary history gave us the ability to connect with other species. On Earth, we've domesticated predators, formed symbiotic relationships with creatures of all kinds. That same instinct, to reach out, to connect, to befriend, is what allowed us to bridge this gap when others saw only monsters. As if to demonstrate, Harmony extended a small tendril toward Mochi, who happily nuzzled against it. The massive creature emitted a rumbling sound that somehow registered as contentment. This is unprecedented, Chancellor Elomar admitted. That's humanity's specialty, Captain Chen said with a smile. Finding friendship in unexpected places. 6 months later, Chancellor Elomar stood at the observation deck of the Confederation headquarters, watching as a team of humans worked alongside 3 cosmic architects, carefully guiding the massive creatures as they began the transformation of an uninhabitable moon into what would eventually become a new agricultural center for the Vesperi people. Still difficult to believe, Admiral Zix Thar commented, standing beside her. A year ago, we were developing weapons to destroy these creatures. Now they're our most valuable allies. The humans have changed everything, the Chancellor agreed. Their application for Confederation membership has been approved unanimously. The youngest spacefaring race among us, yet they've solved a crisis that plagued us for generations. Below them, a human handler was introducing a cosmic architect to a delegation of Ursan engineers. The massive creature lowered its head respectfully, allowing the Ursine beings to cautiously touch its scales. General Krell himself, once the most outspoken critic of the partnership, was demonstrating to his people how to properly stroke the creature's sensory nodes. They have a gift, the Admiral observed. Where we saw threats, they see potential friends. It makes one wonder, the Chancellor mused, what other monsters in our galaxy might simply be misunderstood. Perhaps the humans will help us discover those as well. As if in response to her words, an alert sounded from the communication panel. A transmission from the outer reaches of Confederation space appeared on the screen. Chancellor, the Dravity Communications Officer reported, we're receiving signals from the Thorian Void. The quantum anomalies that have been disrupting our shipping lanes for decades, they're showing signs of sentience. Admiral Zix Thar's antennae stiffened. The Thorian Void entities, but they've destroyed every research vessel we've sent. The Chancellor's crystalline form shimmered with what might have been amusement. Contact the human delegation immediately. It seems we have another opportunity for them to demonstrate their unique talents. As the communication officer hurried to comply, Chancellor Elomar gazed out at the humans working with the cosmic architects. The small therapy ferret, Mochi, was perched on the shoulder of Captain Chen, who was explaining something to a group of Vesperi scientists. The once feared void beast was curled protectively around them all, its massive form somehow managing to appear gentle. The galaxy is changing, the Chancellor said softly, and perhaps for the better. In the vastness of space, 17 cosmic architects moved in perfect synchronization, their quantum distortion organs pulsing as they prepared a barren world for life. And alongside them, human ships followed, not in fear, but in friendship, teaching the rest of the galaxy that sometimes the most terrifying creatures in the universe just need to be understood. In the years that followed, the Galactic Confederation would face many challenges, encounter many seemingly hostile species, and discover many cosmic mysteries. But they would face them differently now, with humans at their side, reminding them that even the most alien of beings might just be waiting for someone to reach out in friendship rather than fear. And across the stars, species that had once been classified as monsters found themselves reclassified as potential allies, all because humanity had done what they had always done throughout their history: looked at the fearsome and the dangerous, and wondered if, perhaps, they might make good friends after all.